What is it? Sorry. I am sorry. Oh my God. Is that better? No, it's not. Y'all forgive me. I'm trying to get this sound down. And I know. Okay, that should be okay. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm trying to get my everything. Okay. So I wanted to have a couple of angles, but I'm not sure that my technology is going to cooperate. So we might just have to do it old school with just the one camera, and I'll show you the board as we need to. Hold on, I'm getting some advice about my sound. Evidently, y'all can still hear. You know what I'm going to do? I'm about to turn this other. Y'all, please forgive me, technical difficulties. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to get one of my god babies to join me here to help me with the tech. We're gonna do this reading and hopefully, okay. So I'm gonna have to go it alone. Hold on. I'm going to turn off this other camera angle. I'm just not gonna do it today. Okay. Forgive me, forgive me. Okay. I'm still hearing this broadcast coming through one of these devices. What is going on? It's this iPad. Y'all, I'm having a auntie moment, I swear. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get started, you guys. And we'll chop this up and make it. Oh, somebody's trying to help me. Bless you, Sammy K, and everybody else. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which device is throwing this extra sound. Y'all forgive me 1 second. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I apologize for the technical issues. I'm about to get started. All is one. Peace to the gods. I am Reverend Priestess Osun Funke. And today we are going to do a reading about the Sonya Massey case. It's a case of a Black female who called the police because she was having what she thought was a burglar or a prowler, someone in her yard. She called the police for help. The police came, and ultimately she ended up dead. Okay. She was shot in the head for moving a pot of water is basically what happened. So I'm going to do a reading today to find out what we need to know. What is it that the ancestral cloud of consciousness is emitting at this time that is vital and important for us to tune into? Okay. And I'm going to use my board. Now, because of the technical issues that I was having, I'm not able to do multiple angles. I apologize, but I will lower the camera to show you the board if there is something that I want you to see. But it's more important to hear and even more importantly, understand about what I'm saying. Okay. So actually, I need to change. Y'all forgive me. I was trying to change my name. See, this is why I need help. Oh Lord, hold on one second, y'all. Okay, I want to change my name so that. Okay. So, what do we need to know? What do the ancestors, our collective and shared ancestors, the Agungun, the most elevated amongst us, what do they want us to know about what do they want us to know about this? Y'all, I can't make this stuff up. The first thing that it flew out of my bone kit. Look at that. You see what flew out before I had the opportunity to even do the reading. Do you see that? I'm not mentioning the name of this particular weapon because I don't want us to get censored or, not have this video be served up. But I think that this kind of speaks for itself. So they are very well aware of what we're talking about. This flew out of the phone kit as I was going after us. So now we're going to ask the collective ancestors, what is it that we need to know? We already know that violence and deadly violence is predicted or discussed because they're already telling us. Okay. Two things off the board, so I'm going to move those to make it easier. Um, I don't like what I'm seeing here because the first thing that I see here is a skeleton and it's upside down over the cornucopia. So this is talking about we don't have a whole lot coming to us. We don't have a whole lot. There's not a lot to inherit from this situation. So as sad as it is, as enraging as it is, it's not going to really please us anything. Okay, so kind of like more of the same kind of vibe is what I'm getting, which is not good. Um, okay, still trying to get some help, y'all, because I'd like someone in the background to assist me. Okay, so the next thing, you guys look here, is this battery, and this battery is over the heart chakra, which is basically talking about that we need to let our hearts lead and we need to use the power of our hearts to guide us. Like, we know what this is, we know where this is coming from, and I'm going to get more into that later. I wanted to do the reading before I give my personal opinion about it. But spirit is saying that we need to lead with our hearts, that we need to be full of love. When we think about this, that we not be um I guess, distracted or incited by anything other than the heart chakra, because we need to feel this deeply to understand what is going on, and how we should handle it. So, lead with the heart. The next thing I see here is the rose quartz over fear, but I also have the fishbone. So, these two things together is telling me that while going with the flow, while letting this materialize the way that it is, we need to be conscious and aware that this is intended to cause fear, because they're saying people love to be afraid. This is the rose quartz over fear. People enjoy being afraid. It feeds the demon of fear, if you will. And so we need to be conscious that we're not going with the flow. I think that that is a more perfected message. Yes. So we're not going to feed into fear. We're not going to go with the flow. We're not going to go down this path that has been laid for us. Y'all, I'm sorry. I need to turn these. How do I turn this off? Okay. Um, that we're not going down this path that's going to just lead to us being afraid and not doing anything, which is interesting, because if we are being led by the heart chakra and we're letting the heart do the guiding, the heart governs emotions. You know, we feel things deeply in our heart, with the heart. And so we need to be very careful, because this is something that's going to elicit the heart. It's going to interest the heart, the emotion. It's going to pull on the heartstrings. You know that saying that we hear. And so, while that is the case, we need to make sure that we're not being sucked into this plan to keep people afraid and inactive. Okay. Um, they're saying we need to amplify the children. I want y'all to see that if you can. Well, it's going to be difficult to see, but we have the family here, and the child is amplified, okay, with our clear chords. And so that is talking about making sure that we talk to our children, that we make our children aware of what's happening right now, that we inform and educate the children, but not with fear, because we're not going with the flow of fear, and we're not doing what is intended or what's planned for us, or the spell that has been cast. Because remember, the Bible says we fight not with flesh and blood, but with principalities in high places. So, keeping that in mind, we need to inform our children about the realities of what it's like dealing with these principalities, how to keep safe. More on that later. Um, the next thing I see is the anchor, and it's upside down over caution. Let me let you see what I see. And I apologize for how I have to do this. So the anchor is over caution. You see the caution tile. So what that's saying is that there was not an abundance of caution here, never victim blaming whatsoever. But the ancestors want us to know that we're not being careful, that we're not acting like we're at war or that we are under attack. Maybe that's better. A lot of people cannot understand that there's a war going on. Even if you think about it from the aspects of what I said, about there being a war with principalities in high places. You know, if you're uncomfortable with the idea that there is actually a social and architectural intentions, um, socially, for people to be hit, damaged, hurt, silenced, rendered inactive. If you don't want to believe that that is happening, if that's too much of a conspiracy for you, then understand that the Bible says and predicts that we are at war and that we fight not with flesh and blood, but with principalities in high places. And so, knowing that, if we're going to operate in the knowledge of that, then we need to be careful. And the ancestors are saying we're not doing that because we have the anchor upside down over caution. So we're not being as careful as we could, and they want us to know that because that was the question that we asked at the beginning of this reading, right? What do the ancestors want us to know? Um, the next thing I see here is that there's work that needs to be done. There's work that needs to be done, and if you want to see what I see here, we have the medicine bowl, and then we have over that some charms that would indicate that things need to be fixed and that there needs to be medicine used to fix it. So they're talking about two things, y'all. And again, never victim blaming, but they're talking about medicine. It has been said that Sonya Massey um, had some diagnosed mental health issues. They're talking about medicine that maybe she wasn't taking her medicine, or maybe there was an issue with her medicine. Um, I don't know, but medicine is definitely being indicated here. But then also for us as a collective, I think the um a second, trying to fix this. Okay, thank you. All right. So I think as a collective, what we're supposed to know is that medicine can fix this, that there is help. There are ways that we can impact our experience. And you know that in African spiritual practices, anything that helps a situation energetically is called medicine. So we're not necessarily talking about herbs and barks and berries, but we could also be talking about spiritual protections. We could be talking about things that we're doing right now, like readings and um, things that give us knowledge and connect us with streams of consciousness that will protect us, because the ancestors have already said that we are unprotected, or we're not anchored in caution. Okay, which caution is going to protect you. So there's medicine that needs to be considered. We need to consider there's medicine that needs to be considered. And I think that they're saying that when it comes to Sonya, not that she was off her meds and she was behaving wildly, because if you saw the video, she was not erratic or anything like that. But perhaps had she been medicated in the way that they might be suggesting, she would have had um, approached things with more caution. Maybe she would have, I don't know. I'm just saying what I see. They're talking about medicine. They're talking about medicine being able to fix the situation, past tense, and I think also present tense. Like, we need to use medicines of a spiritual kind to really protect ourselves and be more cautious. Here I also have um, the hand of Fatima, okay, which has to do with protection over meditation. And also, I have the smaller part of the wishbone over meditation. So, what is this saying? This is saying that we need to think about protection. And protection is not something that we focused on, which is what this small piece of the wishbone is talking about. Is saying, listen, y'all haven't been thinking about protection. You haven't been thinking about how to protect yourselves. Y'all want to get mad and flip over police cars and set shit on fire, but you haven't thought about how to protect yourself from this happening. How do we prevent this from happening? And I think this goes back to what we saw here, the medicine bowl, and the charms that are indicated there, because it's available. That help is available if we tap in. We can be protected if we're willing to tap in and seek the protection that's available. But we haven't been asking for that, and we haven't been focused on that. We've been focused more on wrath. which is why they're talking about over here the battery over the heart. We need to give power to the heart, because yes, the heart rules emotions. We don't need to become angry and do stupid things based on the emotion of anger. Anger is always going to be a poor advisor. But what we do need to do is allow our heart to make us compassionate, so that we can think about one another and the weaker people amongst us, and make sure that they are protected. And I'm not saying that Black women are weak by any means. However, we are largely unprotected in our homes and in our communities, because we are single most times. Most times there's not a man in the house to protect, or a divine masculine in the home to protect the home, which is what the divine masculine does. If her husband had gone to the door and interfaced with those police officers, he probably wouldn't have been fooling with a pot on the stove. And that situation would have gone a whole nother way. But Black women are largely unprotected. And that's something that we have to think about. We got to think about that protection, but we haven't wanted to do that. We've been focused on other things. We've been focused on how independent we can be, and how strong we can be by ourselves, and how much money we can make by ourselves, and how we don't need nobody to do this, that, or the third. And so we are sitting ducks. And best to believe, the principalities that we are at war with, these things have been calculated and contemplated decades before we experienced them. When they removed Black men from the house, back when food stamps were first invented, and they said, okay, Black women, choose between your hungry babies and your man, because he can't be in that house, and we give you these food stamps. But we're not going to give them jobs either, okay? Because that was during the time of Jim Crow. So choose between your hungry babies and your man. And so a lot of women made that choice, and they said, baby, you got to go, or you can come here on weekends, or you can, move your stuff out, put it at your sister's house. And but in case they come check, because they did used to come check, they would check to make sure that there wasn't a man in the house. So don't think that these calculations and these predictions weren't made years ago. Don't think that when they started giving Black women jobs that paid more than Black men, and they put Black women in positions of leadership, and they started to switch and shift the order of things in terms of employment opportunities and things like that, that they didn't know that Black women one day would be unprotected. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's where we are. So protection is not something that we have been focused on, and we need to be focused on. Okay, and we need to be focused on the children. Remember, the children are amplified. We need to teach the children what's going on. So what do I see next? Okay, over questions. I have quite a few things. I have the fishbone. I have this red twine, if you can see that, which indicates confusion. And then again, like I said, that small piece of the wishbone. So this is over questions, and this is saying that we don't even know what to ask. We're not even sure which direction to go in. We don't know what we want. We only know what we don't want, which is what this small piece of the fishbone is speaking so loud, y'all. We don't know exactly what we want because we're not organized. We haven't sat down and talked about that. So this beautiful woman has been killed in her own home, and we're not even sure what we want to do about it. We know we're mad. We know that it's not fair. We know that it shouldn't have happened. But what are we asking for? What is it that we need to happen as a result of this? What questions are we asking? We're here asking the ancestors, and they saying, but what are you asking? You haven't asked us for anything. You guys haven't collectively come together to say what it is that you need, because you don't know. You're not focused. That's what this red string is all about. Y'all are confused as hell. You don't know what you want to ask for, how you don't know how we can help. So we need to get on one page. We need an agenda. We need an agenda, y'all. We can't just be mad and fed up and scared and tired. No, we need to know what it is that we need to change. We don't have to have the solution yet. You need to know what you need first in order to find the solution. Okay? So then the next thing that I see is the anger stone and the penny over the interruption of destiny. Let me show you what I see. Okay, this tile indicates an interruption of destiny. And then we have my anger stone and the penny over it. So how am I reading that? The ancestors are saying to me, yeah, this is angering. Y'all are mad, but it's not gonna interrupt your destiny too much. It's small in the grand scheme of things because they told us at the beginning it's just more of the same, right? It's more of the same. And unfortunately, as I started at the beginning of the reading, the ancestors did predict here with this skull over the cornucopia, they predicted that there's not a lot that's going to come out of this. Not a lot of change is going to come as a result of this situation. And they're saying, it's not going to change your destiny. People are not going to organize. They're not going to do what they need to do. They're not going to ask these difficult questions that they referred to here about protection and whatnot. They're not going to really do that work in order to change things. That is a little bit deflating. Honestly, I was not expecting that. Okay, here we have, this is interesting. We have the cloudy quartz over poverty. You see here on my board, this person emptying out their pockets, the cloudy quartz on top of that. So the ancestors are saying, listen, y'all are not broke. Y'all now see, I'm gonna preach, and that's not what I intended to do. But the ancestors are saying y'all are not actually impoverished. We don't see this poverty that y'all are acting like you're subject to. And what does that mean? That means, y'all, that if all the Black people in the United States combined their spending power, we're not even talking about net worth, just the spending power, just the money that we spend collectively, we would be the 16th largest nation in the world. Probably more than that, honestly. But they say the 16th largest nation in the world, that's power. So if we were to put our money and our efforts together and we were to answer some of these questions about what we want and what we need and how we want to live and what we want to actually experience, then we could make some changes. But the ancestors are saying, I don't see y'all doing it. I don't see this poverty that you guys are complaining about. But at the same time, cloudy quartz, I don't see y'all doing anything about it with all this money that you have access to. I don't see you using it to change the situation. So again, going back to the first couple of tiles that I recognized in this reading, not a whole lot is going to change as a result of these happenings of Sonya, and let me continue to say her name, Sonya Massey's murder. Here I get the transformation stone. Okay, over, you see this tile has a person on a treadmill. I also have a couple of other tiles around it, like my Snowflake Jasper. And so this is talking about with work, things can change, but we have a unique situation, which is what this Snowflake Jasper is all about. Okay, we have a very unique situation. The Black man and woman of America is a created thing, right? The way we have been dealt with, treated as chattel slavery, denied basic human dignities, abused even up until this day, herded off into prisons with rights stripped away, disenfranchised, etc. All of the things that we know to be true, being killed, for carrying a pot of water inside our own homes. The things that we have endured are unique to the world, right? And so because of that, it's going to take a lot of work to transform this situation. But it's work that has to be done if we want to experience change. And that's the thing. The ancestors said over here, with this penny over interruption of destiny, if y'all, nothing's going to change unless we change and unless we ask these questions that they referred to, right? Unless we ask these difficult questions and come up with answers for them, then things are not going to change, because we can't pray for what we haven't asked for. Do y'all understand that? We can't ask the ancestors to help us with something that we haven't asked for. So you saying, God, help me. Yes, I'm here to help you, the Lord said, right? Anything you ask in my name, I will do it. That's what God said, but you got to ask for it first, right? And a lot of us aren't doing that because we don't know what to ask for. And I can guarantee you that what this reading is referring to, what the ancestors are talking about, is the fact that collectively we haven't asked for anything. We're not organized. Black Lives Matter, regardless of what you think about that movement, and there's a lot to think about it, but regardless of what you think about that movement, what are we doing with it? What is it doing? Let me not say what are we doing, because that we part is questionable, right? But if Black Lives Matter doesn't align with your agenda or what you believe, and it doesn't sit right in your heart chakra, which the ancestors referred to at the beginning of this reading, then what does? And you should align and create a cooperative with people who do. And those are the things that we're not doing. And that's why we aren't asking the questions that we need to ask to formulate the prayers that we need to have as a collective, so that we can get the help that we need from the ancestors, who are always poised and ready to assist us. But when we say things like, I'm not going to vote, right? I told y'all I was going to preach out. Listen, when we say things like, I'm not voting, I don't believe in voting, it's two sides of the same coin, and all these things that we say, when we decide that we're not going to participate, then what we're saying is whatever whatever they have planned for us, whoever the they is, it can happen. I'm not going to even attempt to impact it. This system that oppresses me, I'm just going to let it do what it does. I'm not going to try to influence it. I'm not going to try to get into it and change it from the inside out. I'm not going to even do the most minimal things that my ancestors bled and died for, which is cast a vote. I'm not doing none of that. That's what people are saying, and they say it with the chest. They say it with their chest, I'm not voting. So how can you get what you haven't prayed for? Okay? How can you receive what you haven't prayed for? That's a takeaway from this reading. So if we want protection from situations like this, then we have to pray for that, and we have to do it collectively. Yes, pray over your children, pray over your house, pray over yourself, but we need to be doing that collectively in our environments that we live in, our neighborhoods, our cities, our counties, so on and so forth, Okay, back to the board. So the next thing I see is the ancestral stone over the house, right? This is saying, okay. So in Yoruba land and a lot of places in Africa, ancestors are the foundation upon where everything is built. Okay, ancestors are absolutely the foundation. So not only do we concern ourselves with what our ancestors have done, but we realize that we are them, right? And that they also will be coming back, as we hope to, or as we will, until we break that wheel of reincarnation. And so knowing that, then we do everything that we can in this lifetime to carry on the work of the ancestors, because we know that they were wise, right? And also add necessary innovations as opportunity present themselves for us to be able to do so. That is what we are supposed to do if we are living life according to African spiritual traditions, African traditional religions. We're honoring the ancestors with the way that we walk, the way that we talk, and the work that we do in this lifetime, because we realize that we are them and that they are coming back. Okay, so that being said, this ancestor stone over the house is talking about the ancestors are here. They live in our houses. They are with us. They govern our house, if only we would let them. Again, you cannot have what you haven't prayed for. You can't have the protection that you are not tapping into. If you have the protection and it's right there, then why are you not tapping into it? Why are you not doing what you need to do to have the help and assistance and protection of the ancestors in your home? And this stone has everything to do with protection, right? So the ancestors can protect the home is what this is saying. It's also saying, because this is a dark amethyst, right? It looks like obsidian or something, but it's actually amethyst. So this is talking about something that is somber, sobering. The ancestors are saying, your house is sad. Okay. The house of our collective is a sad house. What's happening in it is pitiful. And the ancestors are not pleased. Here, let me show you. I have the other piece of Snowflake Jasper, and I have a quarter over the bullseye. And so they're saying that we will win when we shift what it is we think that we want. But we know that that's true if we believe what was said earlier in the reading is that we're not even asking for the right things. We're not really asking for anything. So if we knew what to ask for and our requests and prayers were in alignment with what the ancestors are poised to do, then we would win. Then we would be on point, but we're kind of like all over the place. Again, they're saying anything that you ask me to do, I will do it. But y'all don't even know what to ask. Anything you ask me to do in my name, I will do it. That's what the Lord said, right? And if you believe that the Agungun are elevated ancestors who have been elevated to the status of deity, okay, then if you believe that they are deity, then you will ask in their name for things to be done for you. And as an African American community, we're not doing that. We're not receiving the help of the Egungun because we're not formulating perfect prayers. Okay. Let me move on. So the other thing I see here has to do with communication. I have the lock over communication and I have the creativity stone over communication. So what is that saying? Listen, we need to be more creative about how we get the message out. We need to be more creative about how we're talking about this and how we're communicating. We need to be going live on our platforms and doing readings because the people that watch my readings may not be the people that will watch yours. So each one teach one. You do what you can from where you are with what you have. So we need to get creative. We need to start talking about this. We need to start amplifying it so that the youth, which they told us earlier, with that amplification stone over the child, so that the youth can understand. We need to start making these streams of consciousness available. Talk about how we need to be protected. Talk about how we need to behave when we interact with policemen. Talk about all of these things, how things can be better. And so the original question was, what does the ancestors want us to know about what happened to Sonya Massey? So if we go back to that question, looking at this lock and this creativity stone over communication, is saying we need to be careful how we're disseminating this information, but we need to creatively do so. Okay, we need to creatively discuss this and disperse this information, but be careful because we know that there are bots and moles and agents amongst us. I can't tell you how many people I had to kick out. I have recently kicked out of one of my Facebook groups for spewing nonsense that is in absolute misalignment with what we came here to do today. And you can't do that on my platform. You don't want to vote? Fine. Go over there with people who don't vote. We vote up in here. So, yeah, we need to be creative about how we disseminate this information. And how, yeah, just be creative. I'm going to leave it at that. The next thing I have, okay, this is like a sentence. Give me a second to interpret this. So it's talking about precision, and it's talking about us not being precise. And I get a upside down cowrie, and a few other things. So it's talking about us not being precise, not being partnered, not being partnered with precision. But they've been saying that. That's one of the themes of this reading, y'all. Somebody write that down, because one of the themes of this reading is that we are not precise. We don't know what questions to ask. We don't know what we want. We don't know what to pray for. We're not precise, and so we don't get what we need. Okay, so we're not joined with precision. Prayers, y'all. Let me show you. Look at this. So I want you to see this tile with prayer hands, okay? And all of these things that are around it. So I'm gonna start to break that down. I'm gonna break that area down. So they're talking about our prayer life and our prayer habits, okay? And as it is related to Sonya Massey, we need to be praying more, okay? The things that we pray for, y'all, are not the things that we need. Again, they're talking about the messaging. They're talking about the ask. This is fool's gold over prayer hands. So we're praying for things that only look like they solve the problem, right? We're not praying for things that are going to actually solve the problem. And that's what they're saying. They said at the beginning of this reading that unfortunately this beautiful black lady's death is not going to lead to a bunch of change because we have so much work to do. We're praying for the wrong things if we're praying at all. And if we're praying at all, is definitely what they're saying, because I get the hematite. So it's saying we need to be anchored in prayer. We need to be held down by prayer, but we're not. We need to create a prayer life. We need to create a prayer agenda. Okay? We need to create a prayer agenda. What are we praying for? When and to whom? Okay. And the ancestors are saying, because remember, we asked the ancestors this reading, we said, what do you want us to know about Sonya Massey's death, her murder? And here I have this unique setup that was thrown, which is the money stone inside the earring, y'all. So what is that saying? Well, that's saying to me that if we got our prayers right, they would pay off. If we got our prayers right, because the ancestors are listening, it would pay off. But they're also saying if we would listen. So that goes back to when they were talking about meditation earlier in the reading. So if we would listen, because prayer is a conversation. So if y'all have taken my prayer class, which is available at learnorishahoodoo.com, somebody that's going to be scrolling at the bottom in a second. But if we knew how to pray and we understood that prayer was a conversation, and that in a conversation you speak and then you listen, right? Then we would be in better shape. It would pay off, which is what this is saying. So if we would listen, the prayers would pay off. And they're also saying, we're listening. Tell us what you need. They've been saying that this whole reading. Tell us what you need. Anything you ask in my name, I will do it. Wow. I want you to see this. So this has to do with time, this line here, right? And this is the end. In the end, right? Not the end of days. Although I feel myself sounding more and more like my grandmother, talking about the end of days, because baby, it's getting crazier out here. It's getting crazier. But I digress. So this is talking about in the end, it will not be lightweight. Okay, so we have the feather. Okay, but it was upside down like this on the end tile. So we're going to go through the things that we have to go through, and ultimately this won't be a small thing. So it's like, it's not initially going to make a lot of changes, because they said that, it's not going to make a lot of changes, and it's going to feel like it was all for nothing. But if we do the work that I already spoke about it being a unique situation that we're in as Africans in America, and things needing to transform. If we do that work, then in the end, this won't be a small thing. But we have work to do to make it so. What else? They're talking about change, and they're talking about activity. Okay, I get the Dion 5 and I get the boar's tooth, which is a trophy over my tile that indicates change. And so what they're saying is that if we change, if there's a lot of change, because I get the 5, which is talking about activity, if there's a lot of change and a lot of attention to change, a lot of commitment to doing things differently, then we will win. That makes perfect sense to me. The mothers are coming through, and the mothers are saying anything is possible. I get an open possibilities are open with the mothers. Again, they're talking about prayer. They're saying, listen, we can do what you need doing. Nothing is impossible. Tell me what you need me to do. They're talking about our prayers, what it is that we're asking for. They're also saying that they are here and that they haven't been engaged. That motherly, and I'm not talking about our mamas, right? I'm talking about the mothers. Okay. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the divine mother energy, if we allow her to do what she does, then we wouldn't experience things like this. But again, we don't know who to pray to, how, or when, and so this kind of thing is happening. um what else do the ancestors want us to know? We're giving away opportunity. So as these situations happen and we don't organize and we don't have an agenda and we don't put that agenda into effect, then we're giving away opportunity. And they're saying don't, y'all don't know what this stone means, but I do. They're saying don't give away opportunity. Don't allow this. And y'all listen, it is ugly and leaves a bad taste in my mouth to refer to this beautiful black lady's death as an opportunity, right? That's not comfortable to do. But the ancestors are saying don't let situations like this pass you by. Don't let situations like this have you fail to organize and fail to come up with a community, a collective agenda about what you need and the changes that you want to see. Okay. So that's the reading for us as a community, as a collective, what the ancestors want us to know about about Sonya Massey's murder in her own home. Now, what hasn't been said here is anything really about her as an individual. And I think the ancestors are being respectful. And I think that enough has been said. There's a mention of medicine here. And we know, like I said, that she was medicated. And she even mentions, because one of the police officers asked her, has she taken her medicine? And that came up in the video. I don't remember exactly. I'm not a walking transcript. But I remember that there was a mention of medicine. And it's interesting to me that that came up here in the reading. But other than that, there's not a lot of discussion about her. We know that she didn't do anything wrong. She called the police for help. So the ancestors really are just talking about how we need to address what has happened. So that is the reading. Now that I have completed this reading, I'm just going to rant a little bit. Thank you guys for joining me for the reading. I want to say something about the situation of Black women at this time. It is there's so much irony going on, and I wonder if people are even picking up on it. Okay. There's so much irony going on. On the one hand, we have a candidate for president of the United States who is a Black woman. And that announcement and that reality has been met with all kinds of, I'm just going to say bullshit, because that's what it is to me. It's been met with all kinds of ridiculousness. And while that is happening, a Black woman being nominated for the highest office in the land, we have at the same time a Black woman being gunned down in her house for holding a pot of water. Okay. And if that doesn't make you think, then I don't know what does. But I think that we are in a very precarious time. And I think that a decision has to be made about what we're going to do. Are we going to be empowered? Right? Are we going to be empowered? Are we going to step into this era where the Black woman can rise up and rule, for lack of a better word, or are we going to continue to be victimized? Okay. That's what's happening on this day. That is what the ancestors have given us to see. We can go this way or we can go that way. You get to decide. That's the beauty of life. And for the Black woman in this moment, I think that's what you need to decide based on what you see. You see an opportunity to be powerful, to participate in a system that has oppressed us, the opportunity to make change and be change and step back into your power. We love to call ourselves kings and queens and talk about what was. Look at the crown behind me. Okay, look at the crown right here, because I wear my crown every day. We love to relish in those times where we were kings. And now that we have a Black woman who is poised to have the highest office in the land, a lot of us are not excited about that, and not wanting to step into that timeline. Okay, so that's fine. You don't want to step into that timeline or participate in making that a reality. But then over here, we have Black women continuing to be victimized. Sandra Bland, Sonya Massey, and on and on. Okay, um, so what are you going to do about that? Are you going to put your crown on and step into the reality that there is violence aimed at Black women at the hands of people who are supposed to protect, and that there's an absence of divine masculine energy that could protect? And are you going to ask those difficult questions and do those prayers and witch this shit and fix it and make it better and different? The choice is yours. I am but a messenger. I let them use me. I say what I see. I thank you for joining me today. And I hope that I have been able to communicate something that inspires you to be your most excellent self, um, and impact the community in the best ways that you possibly can with the highest levels of love and compassion. I love you all deeply. I love you timelessly. I love you truly. Thank you so much for joining me today. And until we meet again, may the ancestors watch between me and thee. Okay, so that was the end of that. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anybody remaining on this live? Are there any questions? I'm going to try to catch up on the comments. Exactly. Okay, Brandy McPherson says she may not have felt the need to call had she been on her meds. And that's kind of what I wanted to say, but I want to be very careful about victim blaming and, oh, because she should have not been shot. Okay. Let's say that she should have not been shot. This should have never happened. But perhaps if she was on her medicine, she may not have been um she may not have called. She may not have been so bothered by the noises that she heard or whatever it was that made her, that shook her up. The most disrespected, I'm reading Mel's comment. She says the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. Yes. Zora Neale Hurston said way back in the day that the Black woman was the mule of the world. And really, that is the case here. But again, y'all, in this moment that we are sitting in right here, please don't let it be lost on you that almost within days of each other, within days, we have two amazing events for Black women to look at, right? We have the announcement that Kamala Harris is going to be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. And then on the other hand, we have a Black woman being gunned down by police in her house. Okay. These are two different timelines, two different um, things for us to consider. Are they related? Absolutely. Because the word coincidence means things happening together. Okay. And these things happen together in a matter of days. How do you want to view that? How do you want to be impacted and inspired by that? Are you even impacted and inspired by that? Does that even speak to you? Okay. Black women have some decisions to make about who we want to be and what we want to experience, and how we impact that. How do we decide what it is that we're going to experience? What is it that we are going to pray for and ask for? What workings are we doing work? And what are we working for? And I'm talking about spiritual work. Okay. I'm talking about hoodoo, juju, and voodoo. Okay. What work are we doing to influence what we're experiencing? Or are we just talking? Okay, let me look at some of these other questions. Yes, we need to ask our ancestors for a better game plan. Awkward letter 95. Yes, we need to be more precise, as they said, about what it is that we are asking for. We need to know what we want in order to do that. We haven't asked the right questions because we're not organized and we're not precise. Okay. United we stand, divided we fall. Absolutely. Linda T. Absolutely. Prayer is a conversation, Katiana. Yes, it is. All is one, daughter. Somebody said we're dealing with 3 retrogrades. Yeah, boy, are we. Okay, Sylvia says, I'm not surprised at all of the misogyny going on. It's so important that we protect our spiritual and mental health. I agree. The misogyny, let's talk about that for a minute. The misogyny that's going on is, I think, a response to the powers that have always been straight white male. Um, it is a response to, they're fighting for their lives. They are seeing the trend towards people of color uniting in different ways, people of color gaining more real estate, literally and figuratively, people of color becoming more educated, people of color and women, okay, women becoming more powerful, making better decisions about what they want to do with their lives and the impact that they want to have on their communities. And as these previously disenfranchised people, women and people of color, um, become educated and become organized, it is squeezing and squeezing on the status quo and the power system of white supremacy. White supremacy cannot work unless white men are in charge. And I think what was the case, the reason it was able to last as long as it did, is because white women were beside them, holding them down so that they could go out and be terrible to the world. And she would stay home and back them up. Well, now white women are saying this is crazy, you know. Um, for years, they have been getting out of the kitchen and out of the house. We've been at work, right? We've been at work. We've been contributing to society and helping to build society. And white women are have come out of the homes and into the streets literally, and mingled with their agendas with the agendas of other disenfranchised people. Because previously, in its infancy, I would say feminism did not have a lot to do with Black women, even though they put people like Sojourner Truth on stage and tried to make her a face of feminism. It really didn't have anything to do with Black women until very recently. And I'm not going to turn this into a class, but I will say that yes, there's a lot of misogyny going on, and it is because the power structure is being challenged. Okay. And as white women and people of color come together, the numbers are skewing. Okay. The numbers are against the status quo. And that is what is causing this reaction of desperation. Okay. T. Allen said that they are absolutely inspired. Thank you. I do what I can, y'all. Um, Again, I thank you guys for being here. I think I've gone through the majority of the questions that I think questions and comments. I really appreciate you guys being here, y'all. I'm just trying to make an impact with what I can. You know, this small platform that God has given me. Um, the studies that I've been able to have, the travels that I've done, the people that I've met, the lives that I've touched, the understanding that I have about where we are and also what we need. I just come here today to do what I can, and to let spirit use me and to communicate what the ancestors um, want to communicate. there's it's looking like there's like 20 some people on here still. So I thank you guys for joining. Um, tell a friend, spread the word, y'all. We need to really organize and decide what it is that we want to experience. You know, what it is that we want to pray for. What are we asking for? What does the change that we want to experience look like? We have to know that before we can create it, right? We have to know what we want to experience before we can ask for it. That is my takeaway from this reading. Um, Sonya, well, Sandra Bland, let's say her name. Sonya Massey should not have been killed, and she was murdered in her own home. Let's not let that be for naught. Let's figure out for ourselves and for our nuclear families and for the groups that we participate in and for our communities. Let us decide how we want to be impacted by her murder and how we can make it useful to us as a collective and how we can honor her life um, going forward. Okay. So thank you for joining me.